I said something to that reporter today, and I said it on purpose because I like watching people's reaction when I say this. I said, Western civilization is not only the greatest civilization in the world, it's the greatest civilization in the history of the world, and Western civilization is better than any civilization that has ever existed or exists on this planet today. It is. It's just better. She said, how can you say that? And I realized that she makes the same mistake that so many people that have a problem with that statement. She assumed that when I said Western civilization is better than other civilizations, what she really heard me say was that we're better people than other people, but I didn't say that at all. Because I am actually as far from a racist as you can be. That's an absolute fact. My philosophy tells me that I could take newborn children from the Sudan, raise them to be astronauts and Supreme Court judges, engineers, whatever I want. Likewise, I can take children from the nicest neighborhood in Toronto, ship them out to neighborhoods, and they'll grow up to be terrorists and murderers. I don't think this flesh is anything more than a computer. It's a processor. It's not the hardware. It's the software. It's the software. So while I am a lifelong anti-racist, I am a raging culturalist. And I believe Western civilization is the greatest civilization in the history of the world. And so when I say it's the greatest civilization in the history of the world, that doesn't mean we're good people and they're bad people. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means we have a better system. And when the reporter said, how can you say that? I said, well, you're a woman. How would you like it if I said to you, you don't have a right to ask me questions. You're a woman. What are you doing out of the kitchen? Get back to where you belong. Did you drive here yourself? Lots of places in the world, that's the case. I said, do you like being thought of that way? She said, no. Do you think it's better that you're treated as a human being in Toronto rather than the way you'd be treated in Riyadh? Yes. Then why can't you say this is better? How do you feel about gay people? I've gone up around gay people my whole life in the entertainment business. I think they deserve to be treated with a full spectrum of respect. Doesn't mean they're automatically good people or bad people. They're individuals like everybody else, but they're human beings like everybody else. Here in Toronto and in the United States, there may be some prejudice existing towards these people, but they are legally protected. In Iran, they're strung up by construction cranes. Don't you think it's better that they're not strung up by construction cranes here? Yes. Okay, I agree with you. What about freedom of speech? Don't you like the idea that we can disagree about things and talk about things and try and find the truth and I don't get carted away or you don't get carted away because you said something forbidden? Don't you think that's better? Yes. Don't you like the idea that you can think about things? That you have the freedom to think and speak and act, where in most of the world you do not have these abilities at all? Don't you think that's better? Well, yes, of course I do. Then why can't you say that this civilization is better than those civilizations? It's better. It's better because it allows humans to become everything that they can possibly be. Why are you so ashamed to say that? Why are you so afraid to say that? And now we're getting down to the real reason that I want to talk to you, because it is the entire idea of civilization that's under attack. I know a lot of people thought I was going to be talking about Syria, and I'll talk a little bit about this, but it's not what I'm here to talk about. It's not a question of the threats to civilization. The danger is that the entire idea of civilization and decency and freedom and potential is under attack. And when you say that it's no different than any other society in the world, you have given up on the essence of what makes us what we are. It's the essence of why people come here. And when you just give it away like that, the game is over before the game begins. We have got to get out of this idea. We have to stop it. We have to understand that the way we treat people is what determines us as a civilization, and no one gets treated better than they do in the West. And that's why the West is the best civilization in the history of the world. And I don't have any problem saying it, because it's true. So I can talk to you all day about external threats to the great city, the civilization. I can talk to you about Iran, I can talk to you about Egypt, I can talk about a runaway resurgent Russia, I can talk to you about China getting adventurous. We can talk about global warming, we can talk about holes in the ozone layer, plagues of frogs, or asteroid impacts, and I don't care about any of these things. These things do not worry me. They're serious threats, they're potent threats, and they need to be taken seriously, but they are not civilization-ending threats. No threats to a civilization from exterior, from beyond the walls of the city, can ever bring down a civilization that's at the height of its powers. It's never happened in history. Civilizations fall from within. This is what scares me to death. This is what makes me think about those men in Arlington. The collapse that comes from within. So that's what I want to spend the rest of the evening talking to you about the real threat to civilization. And it's not from Iran, and it's not from Russia, and it's not from China. It's from within. You know, if you look at history, not American history, not Western history, look at history, deep history, and you look at the path of civilizations in Dark Ages, you realize that it's very, very much like a heartbeat, that the pattern is virtually identical. Virtually identical. A slow and gradual rise to power, competition with other city-states. The competition drives a sense of patriotism and purpose and sacrifice. This increases the power of the civilization. Its mercantile trade spreads all over the world, generates enough wealth to provide an army. The citizens of those republics or those cities believe in them and are ready to die for them. And then the civilization reaches the height of its powers. And when the civilization is at the height of its powers, looking back through the telescope of history, the collapse that happens almost overnight. It's virtually like a strobe light. It's almost instantaneous. But it's always the same, and it's always from within. Babylon, the rise and fall, was identical to the rise and fall of the Egyptian Empire, which was identical to the rise and fall of Athens and Sparta, which was identical to the rise and fall of Rome, which was identical to the rise and fall of the Ottomans, which was identical to the rise and fall of the Spanish and the French and the British. And now you look at America and the West, and you see that we are in a rather ripe place. A rather ripe or overripe place on this cycle of civilization. If that doesn't scare you, it ought to, because it scares me very, very, very badly. But you have to understand that no one could defeat the Roman Empire at the height of the Roman Empire's power but the Romans. So the question I would ask you is, kind of in wrapping this whole thing up, if I've made a case that the civilization is worth protecting and worth defending, worth dying for, because other people are dying to come to it, then the question I would ask you is, what price are you willing to pay for it? Because the great, great destruction of the modern age is, we don't have to pay for anything, do we? Everything's free. Everything's taken care of. There's no sacrifice. There's no hardship. There's no nothing. Everything's free. So what are you willing to pay for all of this stuff? So, if you want peace, you have to be prepared to write a check for your defense. And you have to do something much harder than write a check, because we have money on us. Money's not a problem for us. You have to have the moral courage. Canadian soldiers have the physical courage and the moral courage, as do American soldiers, as do British soldiers, as do Australian soldiers, as do all of them. But you as a population have to have the moral courage to take your enemies at their word. You have to have the moral courage to understand that people want you dead because they want the skyscrapers that you live in, and when you decide to be nice to them by talking about allowing things like Sharia into your society, they don't go, oh, they're swell, let's not hurt them. They go, they're weak, they have a death wish, they want to die, let's help them. You have to understand that. That requires moral courage. If you want order, what do you have to do? You have to be prepared to have law and enforce the law. And people come to Canada because of the law. And if you are seriously talking about having two different laws for two different classes of people, you will not have law or order in this country. Neither. There is one law for everybody. That's what people are coming here for. They're coming for equal treatment under the law. This idea that we're going to implement Sharia, which is antithetical to everything that we believe, antithetical to everything that we believe, antithetical to the idea of free exchange of ideas, antithetical to freedom for women and homosexuals, antithetical to everything that you believe. The idea that we're having this discussion is a sign of a suicidal death wish in this culture, in this civilization. I have no problem whatsoever. I am all about freedom. I have no problem whatsoever with people living under Sharia. Go live under Sharia someplace else. Don't bring it here. Because they cannot coexist together. They cannot. They are antithetical to each other. There is a matter-antimatter reaction, and one of them will win. You're not doing anybody any favors by doing that. They came here to get away from that stuff. And if we're going to tell ourselves how morally advanced we are, by lying down and putting a knife at our own throats, that's not moral advantage. And that's not civilization, it's not gentleness, and it's not generosity. It's suicide.